The hush that settles over Westminster Abbey before dawn will be broken this Friday by a single toll of Great Tom, and that low bell note will pull history and the present moment into the same breath. It signals the day when King Charles III presides, for the first time as sovereign, over the tricentennial service of the Most Honourable Order of the Bath, and when his eldest son kneels to become Great Master, an act that threads 3 generations through one crimson collar. The monarchy's supporters call ceremonies like this the living memory of the Constitution. Polling by the National Centre for Social Research last autumn showed 61% of UK adults still view the Crown as important or very important to national identity, even during cost of living pressures. Economists at Visit Britain calculate that royal heritage, coronations, weddings, investitures feeds close to £3 billion a year into hotels, theatres, and tour operators. Such figures give the scarlet satin now steaming in the royal mews a pragmatic value alongside pageantry. Yet numbers alone cannot capture why a ritual held only every 4 years fills an abbey whose floor was laid before Chaucer was born. The order began on the 18th of May, 1725, when George I signed letters patent creating a chivalric body for signal and eminent service. He revived a medieval custom in which knights bathed at dawn, washed of sin before receiving the sword. Hence the name, an echo of water in an age of muskets and sail. Its motto, Tria Juncta in Uno, has worn 3 meanings: the Holy Trinity, the political union of England, Scotland, and Ireland, and the civic partnership of Crown, Parliament, and people. Today membership is capped at 115 Knights or Dames Grand Cross, 328 Knights Commander, 1,825 Companions, plus a handful of honorary seats for foreign allies. Women joined in 1971, when Princess Alice became the first Dame Grand Cross, and the proportion of female members has inched from 6 to 19% over the past 2 decades. Each new name is burned into an oak stall plate fixed beneath banners in Henry VII's Lady Chapel, the most perfect piece of Tudor stonework in the kingdom. Friday's roll call adds 5 Grand Crosses. A field marshal praised for NATO logistics, a vice admiral who turned hospital ships into pandemic clinics, a quantum cryptographer protecting Whitehall networks, a diplomat who steered Pacific climate treaties, and a surgeon scientist whose 3D printed limbs now restore infantry mobility. Their insignia were polished last night with jeweller's rouge by gloved conservators inside a lamplit strongroom. Each star, 8-pointed and rimmed in silver, weighs exactly 57 grams, not enough to strain a tunic, yet enough to remind its bearer of duty every time it catches a camera flash. While rehearsals unfold, Navy drummers mark time on the cloister grass, and the scent of beeswax rises from choir stalls. A verger lays phosphorescent dots, too small to notice on broadcast, that guide the sovereign's pace to the millimeter, safeguarding medieval mosaics beneath. Organists squeeze a final chord from the Willis organ, testing pipes for the Wiseman anthem newly composed for the tricentenary. Even silence is choreographed. Microphones fitted to choir lamps hush a Trafalgar Square bus rumble to preserve the low amen. The king arrives at the North Ambulatory, touches a carved angel smoothed by 5 centuries of royal palms, and processes in mantle and collar. The garment consumes 23 meters of cochineal-dyed wool lined with white silk. Tailors quote more than £3,000 apiece, though companions may now rent robes after a 2019 cost-saving reform. William follows a few paces behind. At 42 he has spent much of the past year balancing military patronage, environmental advocacy and family privacy during Catherine's convalescence. Great mastership adds constitutional heft to that resume. Parent and heir pause before the Cosmati pavement, a 13th-century jewel floor of porphyry, onyx and glass whose brass inscription famously calculates a notional end of the world in the year 19683. This morning its geometry frames continuity, not apocalypse. Charles lifts the state sword, steel-blued, scabbard-studded, and rests the flat first on William's right shoulder, then on the left. A low reply carries to the vaulted roof, "May God uphold you in your service." Cameras harvest the moment for millions, yet the exchange remains older than lens or live stream. Beyond the cameras lies the mathematic cycle of the order's meetings, quadrennial when knights gather, arctennial when the sovereign attends. Elizabeth II installed her son as Great Master here in 1975. Half a century on, Charles repeats the act for his own heir. Such generational symmetry is rare, for lifespans seldom allow 3 successive monarchs to engage so directly with a single institution. The 5 new knights advance. They kneel on red velvet cushions first used in 1815, their tassels once dusted by Wellington's spurs. Each swears to defend injured innocence, an oath whose phrasing predates the Geneva Conventions yet foreshadows them. A chapel clerk inks their names into a vellum register bound with crimson goatskin. The calligrapher will spend 3 days on a single page, gilding capitals with 18-carat shell gold. Outside, Parliament Square ripples with umbrellas and smartphone lenses. The Metropolitan Police issues crowd estimates of 15,000, modest compared to coronation numbers but remarkable for a weekday morning. Hotel occupancy in Westminster and Victoria has risen 32% over the previous weekend, says the local business improvement district. Livestream metrics will later show peak simultaneous viewers at 540,000, surpassing the 2024 Trooping Parade. Inside the Abbey, a choir of 24 boys and 12 women offers Thomas Tallis's If Ye Love Me in treble clarity, then yields to Concordia, where 16th-century plainsong meets a Phrygian cello drone. The anthem ends on an unresolved sixth, hovering in the nave like breath held for hope. Observers who look up see heraldic banners, crimson field, white Maltese cross, and think only of colour. Military historians note stitching patterns that changed in 1812 when Napoleon's blockades cut cotton imports, forcing British mills to weave tighter wool. Such fabric trivia reminds us that no ritual is static, every thread is the product of supply chains and design choices, not pure nostalgia. The Abbey's archaeology yields quieter stories. A kingfisher feather remains trapped in mortar near a clerestory window, likely blown in during a 14th-century gale. A peach carved into a misericord hints that a medieval carver tasted imported fruit from Aquitaine during a rare warm spell. These minute relics anchor global events, wars, unions, pandemics, to ordinary lives lived beneath the same vaulting we witness today. Alongside that deep time runs present tension. Prince Harry's recent broadcast interview describing space between himself and his brother has dominated tabloids, yet the ceremony proceeds untouched. Palace aides emphasize, off-record, that state occasions are designed to outlast family disputes. The script changed not a line. On camera, Charles greets William with a shoulder pat and a private aside. Whatever words pass are drowned by organ swell, preserving dignity against scrutiny. Speculation lingers outside, but inside the nave, hierarchy and choreography call the tune. The minister's sermon references a line from the King's accession address. Quote, "Service, in its countless forms, lies at the heart of who we are." He draws a parallel to the order's threefold motto, arguing that identities, personal, national, spiritual, must align in action if they are to endure. A ledger of statistics underscores the point. Defense retention studies show decorated officers are 12% more likely to renew extended commissions. Civil service exit interviews cite honors as the single greatest morale booster after flexible working hours. Meanwhile, the cost of staging the service, measured at £180,000, largely from the Privy Purse, yields a media reach equivalent to a £7 million advertising campaign, according to the Government Communication Service. Ceremony ends with a prayer for all who wear the star of this order upon sea, land, and in the air, and for those whose counsel defends the peace. Trumpeters of the household cavalry answer, their silver bells tuned to resist London damp. The royal party exits through the Great West Door into filtered spring sunlight where a single piper offers Highland Laddie a nod to Scotland, whose Green Order of the Thistle convenes in July. Carriages rattle over the Abbey flagstones, drummers sheath sticks, tourists gather discarded program sheets that will become scrapbook relics. Inside, curators slip regalia back into nitrogen-purged cases, Marlborough's Marshal's baton, Nelson's stall plate, Florence Nightingale's star, Nelson Mandela's honorary badge. They lock cabinets before allowing visitors in at 3 p.m. sharp, commerce resumes, but the scent of incense remains. At Buckingham Palace, luncheon is served in the Waterloo Chamber, Cornish crab, Welsh lamb, Kent strawberries, Britain on a plate. Conversation turns from ceremonies to climate finance, mental health initiatives, naval recruitment, proof that robes and swords do not exclude spreadsheets and policy memos. Evening news loops the same 5 seconds, William's mantle sweeping the Cosmati floor, Charles' sword descending, banners stirring overhead. Social media chatter peaks around the hashtag #Bath300, then modulates into threads about Tudor carpentry, quantum cryptography, and the sustainability of wool dye. Historian Lucy Worsley tweets that history trending is history surviving, and within hours her comment itself becomes a meme. Not all reach is digital. Abbey ticket bookings for the following fortnight jump 14% within 24 hours. The shop sells out of commemorative silk ties by Monday. One could reduce liturgy to merchandising, yet visitors linger longest before the unknown warrior's grave, reading the inscription chosen by George V after the Great War. They buried him among the kings because he had done good toward God and toward his house. Service, again, takes center stage. As dusk gathers over the Thames, a palace statement notes the king returned to Clarence House in good spirits, and that the Prince of Wales will chair an Earthshot board meeting next week. Great mastership, though ceremonial, affords William new standing when he convenes generals, civil service heads, and technology chiefs. The baths are not only medieval relics but a network of expertise. Critics argue that dynastic pomp belongs to another age, yet institutions endure not by discarding formality but by refitting it with meaning. Consider that the crimson mantles remain, but within them stand climate diplomats, trauma surgeons, encryption architects and, occasionally, astronauts. Continuity survives by evolving its roster. Tradition is less a museum than a rehearsal room where each generation learns the score before adding a new movement. The final camera crane rises above the Abbey roof. Its gyroscope-stabilized lens captures London's twilight skyline, a mosaic of glass, steel, and medieval stone. It fades out on Big Ben's face set against indigo cloud, and the last note of the organ still vibrates in cables coiled on the truck floor. Next week we head 400 miles north to Edinburgh, where emerald velvet and the thistle emblem take their turn beneath vaulted stone, and where Scotland's own order of chivalry will test how an ancient crown speaks to modern debates on union, identity, and power sharing. The pipes will sound different, the questions similar.